Colonel Vladelina Miliz, Bloody Regina of the Republic, tactical commander of the 86th Strike Package, wanted to curl up and die. Her blushing face was buried in her hands. When did it all go wrong? She would have rather faced the Legion than go through this. Well, not quite, but it was that bad. Oblivious to the utter suffering of their beloved, and the existence of an eager audience, some of whom were grabbing popcorn and placing bets. Shin and Shiden were engaged in an impassioned debate amidst the cafeteria tables of the Rostkammer base mess hall. Said debate was focused on that nagging question which irked both the Reaper of the Eastern Front and the Cyclops of the Queen's Guard. A question which had also somehow gripped the attention of a growing audience, much to Lena's dismay. She then formed finger guns and, after kissing both, pointed them at her majesty. Bang! Meanwhile, Bloody Regina continued to bury her tomato red face in her hands. This was not happening. This was not happening. This was not what I'm trying to say, Lil Reaper. Shin clenched his fists. Raiden let out a slight chuckle. Many female processors and quite a few male ones raised their eyebrows. Is that my fingers definitely made Her Majesty more. Thankfully, Frederico was at Sankt Jeder with President Zimmerman. The old man was starting to miss his adopted daughter. Meanwhile, the younger processors were all fortunately busy with schoolwork. Unfortunately, that meant there was precious little to restrain the furious exchange of words before Lena, and the annoyingly growing audience that was becoming increasingly privy to their bedroom antics. Shin rubbed his chin. Tsk, how crude. Shiden smirked. Can't come up with an answer, Lil. For the record, my dear counterfeit Amazonian, Shin smirked. He knew that mythical reference would be over that stupid girl gorilla's head. Said girl gorilla's eyes were twitching. Bang! This Reaper has not just fingers but a sight. And it has quite the long reach, you know. Quite a number of female processors and male processors swooned. Those that remained standing were blushing. Their reddened faces began to resemble that of Bloody Regina, who was still burying her face in her hands as if she were an ostrich. She did, in fact, wish at that moment that she was an ostrich. Oh, what admirable lives they lived, escaping trouble by burying their hands in sand. Ah, if only my troubles could go away that easily. Meanwhile, Corinna had drool dripping from her mouth. Oh, I'm over her, but still, Shin-san! And, as my dear Cyclops must know, the sarcasm was palpable. This humble reaper is quite excellent at granting many a petit mot, no? Les fatueux sont bons pour accord de petits mots, n'est-ce pas? One didn't have to know old Alban to know what the Reaper of the Eastern Front had exactly meant, or what he implied. Nevertheless, there was still someone out there who had to point out the blindingly obvious. Ah, petite mort, little deaf, it's slang for pig in old Alban. Damn, that was some good pronunciation, sir. It was good for the 86 of the 86 strike package to hate Second Lieutenant Dustin Yeager. Sure, Yeager was a white pig, and yes, this dumb idiot had somehow managed to snag the Snow Witch as his maybe girlfriend, a fact which rankled many a fantasizing male processor. But the young Alban was innocent to a fault, charmingly naive, like a young puppy. You couldn't just hate a young puppy, you just couldn't. Second Lieutenant Andrew Emma, Yeager's supposed maybe girlfriend, merely face palmed in response. Shin cracked a wide grin. He was genuinely pleased at the second lieutenant proving his point, in addition to being outright amused. Thank you, Second Lieutenant Jaeger for not only showing that respect for one's superior officer still exists, but also for your truly edifying clarification of my words. Captain Nozen's words had the impeccable flourish of the Empire's old nobility, fruit of his etiquette lessons with his grandfather. Shiden grit his teeth. Ugh, why did that bastard have to use so many fancy words just to solve? We get it, yeah, you're descended from some shitty noble clan of warriors. You're well read and educated as any fancy noble pig. Ah, we get it. Tension had somehow risen even further in the mess hall. It was sweltering in the figurative sense. The temperature was scalding. A single flicker could trigger a wildfire. Second Lieutenant Shiden Ida of the Bringsamen Squadron, Cyclops of the Queen's Guard, marched up to Captain Shine Nozen, Reaper of the Eastern Front. She pointed her index finger straight at Shin's chest. Then Shiden puffed herself up. Shanna was damned right to suggest she occasionally wear heels. Her eyes glanced downwards, marginally so, but downwards nonetheless, at the Reaper's own red eyes, narrowed with fury. Big words for a small man. Shiden, through her Amazonian image, was slightly taller than even Shine. Ah, how irritating. It was an extremely aggravating truth for Shin, who found it difficult to accept even Raiden, a faithful friend who was akin to a second brother to him, being taller than him. If words could not settle this dispute, fists would. Shanna went around taking even more bets. The crowd around the Cyclops and the Reaper only grew further and further and somehow managed to procure even more popcorn. Odds were 2 to 1 in Shin's favor. No one had forgotten Shin pummeling Shin into the ground in the early days of the strike package. Lena was not worried about Shin and Shiden. Sometimes, Shin and Shiden, the two idiots, needed to vent out steam, which they did through sparring with each other. In any case, they always made up afterwards. Something about fists being able to say what you can't and all that macho bullshit. Shin and Shiden were such boys, but still, the embarrassment they were causing her was too much. Suddenly, a memory struck the blushing colonel. Shin's words, cool but kind in their own ways, again echoed in her mind. Let go. Punish them in accordance with Federacy military regulations. You have the authority and the responsibility to do so. They threw water at her, at first, for being a white pig. Shin told her that she didn't deserve that they had no right, and that she had the responsibility and authority to punish. That's right. Yes, that's right. She had enough of this nonsense. She was Colonel Vladelina Milizay, tactical commander of the 86th Strike Package, bloody Regina of the Republic, the blood-stained queen. What was it that she didn't love to call her? Her Majesty. It was time to remind the two idiots alongside her that formed her their that that she was in charge of the menage a Troy that they formed. Lena took her face out of her hands. Said face was no longer blushing. There was a stern manner to the features of Colonel Milizay now. If there was anyone paying attention, a processor who had fought in the large-scale offensive would have noted that Colonel Milizay had exactly the same bearing she did when she was busy commanding juggernauts to hold the impossible line against the unyielding Legion onslaught. Bloody Regina slammed her fist on the table. Ooh! Thankfully, that ouch was left unvoiced. Everyone stared at Colonel Milizay now, including Shin and Shiden, who were dumbfounded at their beloved's anger. They were just having a spat. It wasn't like anyone was going to get seriously hurt. For all their many differences, the bastard and the girl gorilla had exactly the same thought. And Lena, from months of exposure to their idiocy, was aware exactly of what her two dum-dums were thinking. Yes, her dum-dums, her responsibility, her authority to discipline. Captain Nozen, Second Lieutenant Ida, said dum-dums were busy processing the broad array of thoughts that were going through their heads as they witnessed the fury of their bloody queen. Oh shit, what did we do wrong? God, Lena is so hot when she's angry. Why does Her Majesty look so cool right now? Needless to say, the two idiots were speechless. Colonel Milize sighed and slammed her fist against the table again. Captain Nozen, Second Lieutenant Ida, are you deaf? Berthold nodded in approval. There was an expression on her face, akin to a father proud of her daughter. Turns out that the young girl could apparently pass for a decent drill sergeant. Shin swallowed. Shin's hands, that she was so proud of, trembled. N- no. They answered their bloody Regina at the same time. All thoughts of rivalry were extinguished. Common survival was now their highest priority. Sadly, that was not enough. No, what? Captain Nozen, Second Lieutenant Ida? Reflexes from boot camp kicked in. The two idiots stood at attention. No, ma'am! Again they answered in unison. I can't hear you! No, ma'am! Lena started to feel a strange sensation in her chest. It wasn't at all unpleasant. She was still angry at her two idiots, but for some reason, this felt good. Huh. Must have been catharsis, Lena reasoned. Yeah, just catharsis, just frustration exiting her. Meanwhile, Annette smiled. Finally, a sister in arms. She took her tablet out of her satchel and opened an app which tracked her reminders and appointments. Reminder to self. Hand my copies of BDSM for Dummies, How to Handle Massages, and Being a Good Mistress to Lena. Theo shook his head and stared at Shin and Shiden as if they were two condemned prisoners on death row. Save yourselves, he mouthed. Unfortunately for Theo, his mistress was watching. Listen to me, you two lovable idiots! Everyone in the crowd silently agreed that it was adorable how their bloody Regina was sweet even when she was angry. More than a few stifled their laughter. Unlike Captain Nozen and Second Lieutenant Ida, they had the common sense not to blatantly piss off their superior officer come lover. You have embarrassed me in public for the last time. I cannot believe that both of you thought it was a good idea to argue in public about who gave me more pee. Do you know what I felt as you both prattled on about our pee life, which is supposed to be private? Private. Do you? Uh, no? Yes? Maybe? Shin bravely pushed through towards unexplored territory as befitting of one from the Spearhead Squadron. Unfortunately, this battlefield was littered with mines. Many, many mines. That was a rhetorical question, Captain Nozen. Surely you know what a rhetorical question is, Captain Nozen. Yes. Critical hit. That was also a rhetorical question, Captain Nozen. Again, Master Sergeant Burnthold was impressed. Young lady had some lumps on her, indeed. Shiden couldn't take it anymore. It was just too much watching that arrogant little reaper getting put in her place. Priceless. Laughing, Shiden fell to the ground. It took for about 3 minutes before Shiden could put an end to her bout of laughter. Everyone, on the other hand, prayed for the repose of her soul. Shiden was, all agreed, a dead woman. Even Shin felt pity for her. Only a bit, but a bit nonetheless. When the euphoria evaporated, the reality of their situation quickly dawned upon Second Lieutenant Ida as well. Did I say you were at ease, Second Lieutenant? Once more, Shiden stood at attention in a flash. No, ma'am. What was that, Second Lieutenant Ida? No, ma'am, no! Bloody Regina went in between Captain Nozen and Second Lieutenant Ida and grabbed both of them by the collar. The Reaper felt a bone harden in his body. Second Lieutenant Ida let out a gasp, trying to ignore the increasing What the ping? Listen to me, Captain Nose and Second Lieutenant Tida. I am your bloody queen, your commander. I am the one wearing the pants on this god-forsaken triple. So when I say knock it off. You hear? Yes, ma'am. Lena's eyes regained their warm glow. Internally, Shin and Shiden rejoiced. Their Lena was back. Their cute, adorable, nice, cuddly, not angry Lena. Fighting the Legion was a frightening endeavor, but an angry Lena was truly something else. Verily, they both they both rather would have faced 1,000 Dinosauria than a pissed off Ladelina Melise. Good. Now come here for a group hug, you two. You may be idiots, but you're my idiots.